Good evening, music world. John Hannigan here from What's Spinning. Hope everybody's doing well out there. List week over here rages on. We've already dropped our top 10 worst albums of the year, as well as my top 5 EPs of the year. If you haven't yet, go back, check them out. They are going to be linked down below. But today we are here for the next leg of our journey, and tonight we are going to be chatting about my top 50 singles of the year. It's never an easy list. It's always a pretty hard list for me to put together just because there's been so many great tracks this year. There's always well over 100 that I'm kind of narrowing it down from. But yet, here we are with a list of 50 tracks I think were the best singles released this year. I'm going to start things off with a couple of quick honorable mentions just because, the list is so damn long and I want to, fit more things on it, but obviously we need to make some cuts. And these are tracks that just missed the cut of the top 50. First up, want to take my hat off to some track featuring Toro with Days Go By. This came out earlier this year, would end up on some track's latest album, which I had a lot of high hopes for just because mostly how great this single was and how great some of the other singles were. I honest to God think that this does a better job of getting Toro aka Chaz Bear, Chaz Bundick, whatever, back in the electronic direction than a lot of other tracks that he's tried in this vein. It actually makes me miss those days. Also, honorable mention, Queens of the Stone Age, Paper Machete. This is the track that, reminded me that the band still just has so much more to offer, which they do, because there's a lot of great stuff on their new album. Love the riff, love Josh's vocals, love this thing. Also want to give a shout out to The High Life from Block Party's latest EP, The High Life EP. This, to me, is like where they should have been all along. This is just a really great, groovy dance punk track with a hell of a riff, really catchy chorus. It's super, super catchy as well, and it's not that hard. Also, want to give a shout out to Plastic Envelope from The Drums. Listen, this Drums album was so close to being an 8 out of 10, mostly because of singles like this. It's so freaking catchy. There are so many great catchy singles on here. I actually had to go through a few to find an honorable mention. Finally, for an honorable mention, Mindfulness Solutionism from Aesop Rock. Really great cut off of his new record. Alrighty, my friends, we are diving into my top 50. First off, some ground rules. One song per artist. It's nothing new here. We do it like that every year. One song per album, obviously. You might see some artists pop up a couple of different times within features and everything. But outside of that, let's have some fun. At number 50, it's The Men with a really great alternative country-leaning ballad, much like a lot of stuff from their early recordings, with Anywhere I Find You from their new album, New York City. I love this thing. It's a very pained, bluesy ballad that just reminds us of what kind of range the band has always had. They still do have it and can still pull it off. At 49, I'm going to give it to Boygenius with Emily, I'm Sorry. Yes, it's a very good indie record. I didn't like it as much as basically the entire world, but this was the single that made me maybe I should go listen to it one more time. It is an absolutely stunning ballad. It is beautiful. It is somber. It is the real deal. At number 48, Sue Me. I actually thought this track was awesome. I am giving it to 72 Seasons, the title track from the latest Metallica album. Was this album perfect? No, far from it. But is this track a lot of fun? Yes. Yes, it is. And at number 47, it is Model Actriz with Crossing Guard, one of the most crushing, tense, tracks from their debut album. Yeah, it's really good. A lot of that album is some of the more interesting stuff that's going on in post-punk and post-industrial right now. At 46, it's one of the best tracks from the new Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit album, Save the World. Love this track's upbeat, airy guitars, and just the determination in this riff. This is my kind of track from Mr. Jason Isbell. At number 45, it's Angel Olsen with Nothing's Free, one of the steamiest, most loungiest moments on her new EP, Forever Means. It is just a really sultry, intimate jam. Love her vocal work. It's absolutely to die for. And at number 44, it's Teenage Wrist featuring Soft Cult with Still Love, a track that really hyped me up for their latest album, even though I ended up just really not being into it at all. This is still a great shoegazy throwback alternative rock single. At number 43, it's Gorillaz featuring Tame Impala and Booty Brown. That's right, the new Gold single. Honestly, this Cracker Island I thought was a very kind of mid album from Gorillaz. Just was not into a great deal of this album. But this track, it's funky, it's fresh. I love the glistening production. Just the Tame Impala features really good. Everything about this track works. And at 42, it's Aphex Twin with Blackbox Life Recorder 21F. The title track to his fantastic IDM and ambient techno EP of the same title. I mean, what more can you ask for from Aphex Twin in 2023? At 41, Carly Rae Jepsen teases going in the new disco direction with Psychedelic Switch, Don't Tease Us. And at number 40, one of the most brooding and intense singles all year from this Chat Pile and Nerver EP, it's Chat Pile with King. At 39, it's one of the best tracks to kick off a post-punk and art punk album all year. I'm talking about Proto Martyrs' Make Way. This thing really kicks off the album in a great way. This was one of the first singles dropped from the album. I love how dark and gritty and dramatic it is. At number 38, it's Foo Fighters with Show Me How. I stand by it. I think this is one of, if not the best, Foo Fighters records. This is just a really fantastic alternative rock single, and I wish that, Foo Fighters, discography meant this much to me as, this track and their new album, because this is a really emotional, well-performed track. At number 37, while I was kind of disappointed by this new Code Orange album, I was not disappointed with Take Shape featuring Billy Corgan. This is a weird pairing that I never thought in a million years could actually work, but apparently it does. It's just pretty, and I love the chorus. It's just so animalistic. Love the production, and Billy Corgan doesn't shit the bed. So, any day that happens, it's a big plus in my book. Also, at number 36, one of the best indie rock and shoegaze singles all year. It's Hotline TNT. It's Hotline TNT with Protocol. Love everything about this track, from the production to the vocals to the strummed riff. I love it. At number 35, it's Beach Fossils with Don't Fade Away, one of the sweetest dream pop and indie pop tracks you will hear this year. Bank on it. And it's really one of the first singles they dropped from this new album. Made all of my worries disappear. And at number 34, it's Killer Mike featuring Aaron Allen Kay with Motherless. I mean, I personally really loved this Killer Mike album. Michael loved the storytelling on that record, and Mike's very introspective and personal lyrics. Doesn't get much more introspective than this. At 33, it's Mitski with one of the best ballads you're going to hear this year, Bug Like an Angel. And at number 32, I could not say no to Troye Sivan, Got Me Started. 31, I want to give a shout out to Grian Chatten with Fairlies from his debut solo record. I think this thing has actually grown on me a little bit. It's honestly one of the more impressive albums that I've heard from a frontman of a punk group going out on his own. There's a lot of really cool stuff here. This track is awesome. And at number 30, it's Lotus Light from Tim Hecker. This 8-minute plus sort of drone and ambient piece really is the center of that really great album that Tim dropped this year. Yes, is this going to be for everybody? Absolutely not. But if you sit with it, if you love ambient, this thing is icy cold. It is meditative. It is pretty hypnotic. At 29, it's Black Thought and El Michels Affair with Thoughtful. I just love this track so much. I really did enjoy that record quite a bit as well. I love the sort of very lush, colorful, jazzy backdrop that we get from El Michels Affair. And Black Thought is just, he's Black Thought for a reason. The guy is on a serious roll right now. Lyrically, performance-wise, the guy sounds great. This track is great. At number 28, it's Wolves in the Throne Room with Twin Mouthed Spring. This was the track that said that this EP is going to be a ripper. And what do you know? It's actually my favorite EP of the year. This is also one of my favorite metal performances of the year. I just love how cinematic it is. I love the risks that they take without kind of lessening their sound. It's still really heavy. It's still really epic. It's got that big, beefy black metal track sound. But yeah, they really do push themselves. And at number 27, it's Tribulation with The Pact. It's from their latest EP, Hamartia. It is a Blue Oyster Cult cover, but they do it a lot of justice, and it's got the perfect balance of this gritty, gnarly sort of blackened death metal, but it also has that fist in the air, anthemic quality that just brings things back. It's great. And at number 26, my hat is off to Chris Stapleton. I mean, I have a soft spot for the guy, and while I didn't enjoy his new album as much as his last album, White Horse is easily, and I do mean easily, the best country track of the year, by far. At number 25, did not see this coming, but Unknown Mortal Orchestra with Meshuggah. I said it in my review at the time. I don't think this is a very good album. I think it's actually kind of a mess, but the good tracks here are some of the best Unknown Mortal Orchestra tracks since Multi-Love. This track is such a great single. I love how dreary and dreamy it is. It's definitely something new for them. I just wish they kept this up throughout the album. At number 24 is Mr. George Clanton with Justify Your Life, one of the many, many great tracks on his new album. And at number 23, it's Archie Marshall himself, King Krule with Flimsier. This is easily one of the most sort of punky, jagged tracks on his very spacey, dreamy new art rock record, which you'll probably see in my top 20. Just saying. But this is easily one of the best tracks here. One of the best singles that Archie's put out in years. At number 22, it's Wild Nothing, Mr. Jack Tatum himself, featuring Hatchie with Headlights On. This is like such an instantaneous dream pop track. This new album from Wild Nothing, it's really personal, it's really emotional, and this is the track that kicks it off. It's super instantaneous. I love how dreamy, it's got the 80s throwback synths, great hook from Hatchie as well. I mean, any track that she's on usually is pretty much a banger. Shout outs to Wild Nothing. And at 21, an album that I had so much hype for, and it was just kind of okay at the end of the day, but this is still easily one of the best singles of the year, and that's Kaytramine featuring Pharrell with Forever. This is so bubbly and upbeat and fun and catchy. It is like, I mean, like, I'm the least summer enjoying person around, but this track makes me want to like go and hit the beach and have a pool party. Like, what the fuck is my life? All right, friends, we are in the top 20. We are on cruise control. I'm going to take my time with these last 20 and give you a little bit more insight into them. And at number 20, it's King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard with Gilla Monster. Not my favorite track from the new album, but this single, from the first time I heard it, it just had my bones shaking. Just the repeated chord, the big, huge hooks, just the crushing chords, the intense drumming, everything about this track, while it's not the best track on the new album, sums up everything great about it. At number 19, absolutely one of the most beautiful and breathtaking things I've heard all year, it's Julie Byrne with Summer Glass. I mean, I was so iffy on her for so long, and this new album just like awoke me inside. It is just absolutely stunning atmospheric folk. It's a little psychedelic, it's a little hazy, it's a little sunny, but her heavenly vocals and her visual lyrics, they're to die for. It's one of the most truly beautiful things I've heard all year. At number 18, the world is immune to it, and I am a part of this world, so I am also immune to it. I'm gonna give it up for Miss Olivia Rodrigo. Yeah, I was absolutely blown away by how good Bad Idea Right is. I mean, this is one of probably the most catchy, instantaneous pop tunes I've heard all year. I love the snarky lyrics. I love the tongue-in-cheek humor. I love her performance. Yeah, just more of this, please, always. At number 17, it is one from the new Portugal the Man record, who I've kind of come around to in a big way. I did enjoy the album a lot. It's not perfect, but it is a lot of fun, and we are going with it. Number 17, Summer of Love featuring Unknown Mortal Orchestra. Oh my god, this track is one of the best indie tunes I've heard all year. I just love the big saxophones, this gigantic hook. It's short and sweet, but it's just so catchy and memorable. It's easily the most memorable thing on the album. At number 16, we gon' scare some hoes with Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia with Lean Beef Patty. Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? It's one of the most exciting, off-the-walls, and truly ballistic hip-hop projects you're gonna hear this year, and I don't think it gets much more caffeinated and wild-eyed than this track. I love everything about it. Danny and JPEG absolutely kill the damn thing. The pop culture references, the Tony Khan line. Oh my god, it's just so good. At number 15, it's Alive from Slowdive. I mean, I personally knew that I was going to enjoy this new Slowdive project. I didn't realize how much, because I do think that this is better than their self-titled album, and tracks like this are just gorgeous. I mean, from a production stance, this is absolutely mesmerizing. I almost went for Kisses with this track, but I do think that Alive is just one of the best tracks on there. It's absolutely stunning. Oh, at number 14. Hate all you want. At number 14, this I did not expect to see on a countdown of mine, but I am immune to it. I think that this is exactly as advertised. At number 14, it is Drake with SZA for Slime You Out. I mean, leading up to this single, he promised us the old Drake. And goddamn, this does indeed sound like something off of Take Care. And while it's not as perfect, I really commend this track. I think Drake brings his A game. I love the production and the beat. SZA really brings her A game as well. And this track has done nothing but grow on me. Yeah, it's the real deal. At 13, Caroline Polachek, Blood and Butter. This could have gone a few different ways, but there's something about this track that just gets inside my veins, whether it be just the gigantic chorus or the bagpipes towards the end. This was the single that I kept going back to time and time again from this project. It's just so big and gaudy, and I love Caroline's performance on this track. Her vocals are just so beautiful. A+. At number 12, one of the better rock singles of the year, it's the OCs with Intercepted Message. I heard this track coming down the pipe, and my initial thoughts was, this is probably going to be a lot of fun. And what do you know? The OCs went synth punk on this track, and it's just so zany and upbeat and hectic and busy, but it's also really catchy, fun, quirky, colorful. It's a really interesting new direction for the OCs, and they did it so well right off the bat. I mean, you never know where they're going to go next, but for now, this single is the real deal. And at number 11, talk about a single that could have gone about 10 different ways. It is from the new Alan Palomo record, and this could have been a couple of different things. Could have been La Madrilena. This could have been Mutrier. This could have been a couple of other tracks like Stay at Home DJ, but I went for La Nudista Mundial 87 featuring Mac DeMarco. I have not had more fun with many more tracks than this right here. This album is such a freaking blast. It's funny, it's quirky, and this single wraps up everything about it in less than 3 minutes, between Alan's really sultry singing, the ridiculous Leisure Suite Larry music video, also Mac's ad-libs. Oh yeah, like, come on, man. Everything about this track just clicks. I have not had, more fun with many other tracks. This track is a blast. Which brings me to the top 10 singles of the year for What's Spinning. We're going to start things off at number 10. Oh, I'm telling you right now, this year has been incredible for the R&B sector of music, and we are kicking things off at number 10 with Miss Caliuchis with I Wish You Roses. My God, this is just one of the most pure forms of just an expression of love that I've heard all year, which I could say about a lot of that album. This is just such a sultry, sweet, expressive jam. Callie's vocals, some of the best vocal work I've heard on any track of this year. I love just the colorful production and just the sentiment behind it. This whole record is just a great expression of love, and most of it comes down to tracks like this. It is really just one of the best songs I've heard this year. At number 9, it is Genesis Owusu with Tied Up. I mean, the second I heard this track until yesterday, I don't think I've been able to stop grooving here. This track has such a tight hook to it. Like, who let this be this catchy? The groove, the off-kilter production, the freaking hook on this thing. In my review, I claimed that this album had 9 or 10 of the best hooks this year. This is easily one of them. It's just such a funky, weirdo pop jam that only Genesis could put out. At number 8, you know what, you want to talk about something I never thought that I would see here. It's a tennis track. Somehow they did it. At number 8, it's Tennis with Forbidden Doors. I've said it before in my review earlier this year. Tennis is a band that I have just not been able to stomach for years. I think their music is just way, way, way too light and fluffy most of the time. This, though, Forbidden Doors, this is one of the best ballads I've heard all year. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful. I love the sort of hazy, sunny production that we get here. It's a little psychedelic, but it's also deeply rooted in 70s soft rock. It is just, I don't know, something about this track warms my heart every time I hear it. That whole album is really, really impressive. My hat is off to them. They finally came up with something that I personally think is really interesting. And at number 7, it's Hannah Diamond with one of the best pop tracks you're going to hear all year. I'd argue the best pop track that you heard this year, with Staring at the Ceiling. You know, a couple of years ago, she dropped the High single, and a lot of people were very quick to, point out that she's been really, really good at, bringing emotions into this very robotic, very minimalist pop that PC music puts out, or maximalist at points. Not usually the case in Hannah's music, but this track here takes everything from that track and kind of gives us a part 2. It is the loneliest, most genuine feeling that I've ever gotten out of Hannah's music. It is absolutely just harrowing, but it's performed really well. It's really tragic, but it's also really hip. The production's great. It's just catchy enough. It's great. And at number 6, the track that stood out to me the most on the new James Blake record, and there were quite a few on there. It's an unbelievable album from James, but tell me, this track here, this brought me back to like the early days of James's music, the EP days of James's music. Just the icy cold synths just permeating through this track, as well as James's very bluesy, very human vocals. It's the perfect counterbalance. It's such a unique, icy cold sound that still has that little bit of human emotion at the center of it. It's so, so, so interesting. It's got a pretty heavy beat too. Gets you up and moving. And we've reached the top 5 here. My top 5 singles of the year, starting out at number 5 with Young Fathers with I Saw. I mean, I heard tracks like this coming down the pipe, and I dropped everything and I adjusted my calendar for this album, and I'm glad that I did, because it's one of the best records of the year by far. No spoiler alert, you will see it on my top 20 albums. That's coming out tomorrow, by the way. But this track, something about the way this track builds constantly, layer after layer, starting out with just kind of a little drum and bass and a couple of vocals here and there, to this big art pop, psychedelic, kaleidoscopic explosion at the end of it. It is absolutely to die for, and just another great reason to go and listen to the Young Fathers album. Number 4, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it, so we're keeping it short and sweet. It's Sufjan Stevens, Will Anybody Ever Love Me? Can we move on now? Okay, now that I'm done crying. At number 3, I don't care. I don't care. White Reaper are doing things in music right now that are just making me so happy. And there's a lot of great singles on their new album, Asking for a Ride. But at number 3, I think I'm putting Pages. Pages is one of the best rock tracks of the year. Everything about this seems like it's stuck in the 90s, but it's done in the best way. It's pristine enough to sound modern, too. I'm impressed all around. This hook is to die for. Go listen to the new White Reaper album. At number 2, a track that absolutely stunned me when I first listened to it, and then I listened to the album, and it hit me even harder. It's Billy Woods, featuring Samuel T. Herring of Future Islands fame with FaceTime. I mean, if you don't know, a lot of Billy Woods' latest album, Maps, is a kind of concept album about life on the road. And Billy dives into it in his own unique fashion, and he does not hold back. And FaceTime is one of the most intensely real moments in hip-hop that I have heard in years. It really sheds light on a kind of sector of the touring life that we don't get as fans. This track just hit me so freaking hard like a damn bus, and Samuel T. Herring on this hook brings everything together. Yeah, it's a great track. Which leads me to my number one single of the year. And, at the end of the day, when I'm making my countdowns, I say to myself, well, what track just made you feel something special this year? So at number one, I'm going with Kelela, Contact. This was probably the most instantaneous track I've heard this year. The second that very immersive beat hits at the beginning and Kalela's haunting vocals pop in and this thing just keeps grooving. This thing just keeps popping. The production is mind-boggling. The production on this entire record. This is one of the best immersive experiences I've heard in forever. And this track is the center of it. It is just this huge expression of love, lust, sexuality, gender, so much more. And it all does it all in 4 minutes. Also, Kalela's vocal work, it's pretty impressive. As per usual, I think it's the best track that I've heard this year. But please, let me know down below what some of your favorite tracks of the year have been. Got a playlist? Drop it down below, because I want to hear about it. And like I said, tune in tomorrow for my top 20 albums of the year to roll out list week. And until then, have a great day, friends.